is my pleasure and honour to introduce our speaker of today, Kochummen John. I tried to find out what he's talking about, and basically he said to me, well, I can't repeat that, but he said, my job and other things. So, Kochummen John, the floor is all yours.
Thank you. Well, thank you so much, Mr. Past President and George, for introducing me. I just want to, I didn't have much time to prepare anything. I was originally wanted to show a PowerPoint presentation. A little bit about where I come from and what did I do in England and what's going on at the moment. But my computer broke down last week and it was not repaired yet. So it was in a mess. So I just speak. And if I go over a little bit, perhaps forgive me for that. I am coming from a large family of 9 members. My father was a businessman, and he was doing coconut oil business in those days. And we were a kind of a middle-class family in the place where I am coming from. I am coming from a beautiful part of India known as Kerala State, K-E-R-A-L-A. Kerala State is the, let me show you something, it will give you an idea of Kerala State. Kerala is one of the 29th state of India, and it's the smallest state. In the tip, this is India map, and Kerala is on the bottom. I was going to project to you this one, but Kerala is, can you see this green thing? It's the smallest state, being bathed by the Arabian Sea. It's the tip of the Indian subcontinent, so to say. And this is the state, we are in Kerala state. It's such a tiny state, going like a linear fashion. And it's such a tranquil state. It's full of valleys and mountains, beautiful weather. 25 to 26 degree most of the time, but at the peak of the summer, which is in May, June, July, to go up to 32 degrees, but never more than 32 degrees. It's always a cool state. So much so, because of we have got about 43 rivers flowing across Kerala in different parts. Some are small, some are big, and also we are in the northern part. We have got the Western Ghats, parts of the Western Ghats, preventing the hot air coming from the north of India into the south. So we have always had this greenish, lavish, kind of agricultural place, and the tranquility and the wonders of all this land. People call it the God's own country, because it's so much beautiful, and people who have gone like Subhash and Dr. Naidu and people like that will appreciate what I am talking about.
I've been there twice.
And we got one of the beautiful beach. I'm going to stop there about Kerala. I want to beautiful beach known as Kochummen Beach. It's one of the finest beaches in the world, they say. It's sandy, it's miles and miles long. And people from all over the world come there. Then you might ask, what am I doing here? This is what exactly a person who was one of my patients went to stay there for 6 months, and she sent me a beautiful card saying, Dr. John, what are you sitting and doing in barking? Why don't you come to this beautiful land? And she doesn't know that I have to survive and earn my living here. So, that is the thing. So much about Kerala, and so much about my family. My brother is here. He's you're on the 4th on the line or the 5th on the line. So that's about Kerala. Soon after graduation, I met my wife in the medical school, LC. She was also doing an internship, and I met her, and we were. I wouldn't say courting in the British standard, but we were having coffee together and having little chit-chat. That is our courting in those days. That's all is allowed in those days. The society allowed it. If there is anything else, you will be in deep trouble. So we were courting, and in 1973 I married her. in one of the church, and soon after marriage, we got an opportunity to. We came to Delhi to see her brother who was working there in the army, and from there we got an opportunity to come to England. On 1973, on a cold, very bitterly cold day, -3 or 4. So I was traveling from Delhi, which was about 40 degrees centigrade, to Heathrow Airport, which was -3, and it was terrible. I didn't have a woolen coat, and I just came with a casual jacket and everything, and when I got down at Heathrow Airport, I thought, my God, I'm going to die. I had the most difficult time, and somebody offered me an old coat, and I carried on. I stayed with my relatives, and so a couple of months after, because I came not as in the official training program, I came as a tourist. Mind you, don't think that I'm a refugee or something at the time, because doctors doesn't need what you call a work permit in those days. If you have got money, you take a ticket, come here, and you can work. That was the style when it was at the time. So in 1973, because I didn't come through their official training program, I had a little job to make myself kind of known to the authorities that I am a doctor, and I want to practice here and everything. So that took a couple of. I was given what you call a clinical attachment post in Pinterfields Hospital, Wakefield. I did a 15 days attachment. Attachment means they should know that I speak good English, my behavior and relationship, everything is fine, and I am going to be suitable to this country to practice. That's what they are trying to find out. So after 10 days after doing my clinical attachment, my chief told me that I can apply for jobs, me and my wife.
Thank you.
One interesting story is we didn't have a car at the time, and we were living in a very tiny accommodation in the hospital, and we went out to walk, and it was cold. We didn't have the proper clothes. I couldn't understand the Yorkshire accent, and it was miserable. It was terribly miserable. I don't know what they were saying, and they didn't understand what I am telling them. So that was a terrible situation. So you should imagine the young doctor coming from abroad and coming to this country. It was very difficult. Anyway, then after my training, I got a job in Alveston. Alveston in Cumbria. You should know this place, because Alveston is the place where Laurel was born. Not knowing, I didn't know the importance of this, but you see that Laurel was born, Laurel and Hardy comedians. Laurel was born there, and I was only about a mile away. My hospital was a mile away from where Laurel's native place is. There is a very small market there, and we have to go for shopping. Again, I didn't have a car, and Elsie was pregnant, and I didn't know about that. And we had no car, and we were walking. And one day, the Indian way of walking with the husband and the wife, we should know. The husband always walks about 3 yards in front of the wife. So I was walking 3-4 yards in front, and she was coming slowly with her big tummy and everything. Poor girl, she was walking. And we came to a turning, and when I turned back, I couldn't see her. So I thought, what the hell has happened? And her English was worse than my English, so I thought she wouldn't survive there. So, and then I found a forklift driving, or something like a lorry, I don't know, those days, which was carrying hay. And Elsie was sitting in front of the driver. What was going? Apparently, because this fellow who was this farmer who saw her walking and the miserable, and she had a chicken in her hand, we bought a chicken from the market. Working. He thought pity on her, and she told her, "Come on, my love, sit in that truck." And they were going, and she was laughing at me and I could see the look of that farmer. because he was telling me, you don't treat your wife like this. You see. Well, that's what I felt, and that phase I always remember, because that is the way, so I always make sure, even if I'm going slightly in front, I'll come back and join. So we were given a beautiful accommodation in Alveston. It was in the middle of a farming land, and it was a 3-bedroom, beautiful, beautiful accommodation. And the people were extremely nice, compared to an Indian culture, an Indian way of this one. India has got class system and everything. But doctors here were considered something great. We were given coffee, tea, cakes every time we go for on call. If you are run out of meat or vegetables or anything like that, you can go to the hospital, kitchen and ask them to. You can borrow 2 kilograms of 2 pounds rather, 2 pounds of meat or potatoes or all sorts of things. Only thing is you have to replace it. Some clever people haven't replaced it, and that's legendary, but that's a different story. But so the lady gives meat you should return it, my love, and that sort of thing. Another interesting thing was when we were in Clayton Hospital, there was a lady who brings tea for us. And she brings tea and she knocks on our door. And we were just newcomers, you must appreciate. Your tea is here, honey. And I thought, what the hell is she talking? Sometimes she used to call me Petal. Sometimes she used to call me honey. And later on I found that this is the way you people address this one. It's nothing to do. My wife was getting a bit embarrassed. The young lady coming and calling me honey and all these things, she didn't like it at all. So I had a little bit of miserable time there, you see. While I was in Alveston, one of the greatest things, I was looking for something to show you. One of the greatest things which has happened is that I met a very eminent doctor known as Dr. Somerville. Now let me tell you a couple of sentences about Dr. Somerville. In the 1940s, 30s, he was a very eminent surgeon in Guy's Hospital in London. He left everything. He would have been the president of the BMA or one of the top. He left all those things. He came to South India. In those days, the medical care was absolutely nothing. There were small hospitals, mostly trained Ayurvedic doctors. There is no allopathic doctors. Some were given LMPs and everything by the British rule, some degree. But there wasn't any kind of systematic medical care in southernmost part of India, especially our part. This fellow came there as a missionary. And he left everything. His wife is from the Keshus family, very rich family. And I was told that he is living in Ambleside, which is not far off from Alveston in the Lake District. So I met him. He was 91 years old. A lot of marble in his still present, and he was talking very nicely, and he was very thorough with the subject and everything. What an angelic person he was. He did all these things. He built hospitals, and we have got a hospital in my own native place. He formed a society known as London Mission Society, that hospital is still there. Edison should know, and that's the place we used to go for medical care. And as a child, my father took me there to see him for some tonsillitis or something like that. I remember. So that was the greatest thing. Such a dedicated man, resting in Ambleside and living there, and that was one of the greatest things I had. While in Alveston, I worked with a very eminent physician known as Dr. John H. He was a chest physician, well known. He was the one who introduced, one other person who introduced some biopsy technique for the lungs, some instruments. He is one other person. And so much so that he went to Kerala and visited my parents and stayed in this beautiful Kerala places and spent some time with my family. My next job was my life in Alveston and Barrow and Furness was very nice. The Lake District was only 7 miles away, and we used to go to the Lake District and everything. My next job was in Dundee Royal Infirmary. Where my son was born, Jagan was born, and it was a very difficult time for us because he was very premature. Many times the Royal Infirmary people had it been the Royal Infirmary, he would have been dead. Because such expertise you don't get in the peripheral hospitals. Because it was a teaching hospital, and he was in the incubator for a long time, so many weeks, and many a times I was told that he will not survive, because he was so small. But thankfully, by God's grace, he is a 6'2" person, trained in a bit of cardiology and everything, and he's following my footsteps. And also is a GP, as Mahmood and people knows that he's a practicing GP in Baki. So he's a Scottish fellow, and I told him not to vote for that lady's business of separation, because he had the right to vote. My next job was in Brighton Royal Sussex County Hospital. You know, doctors cannot, automatically we will not be given a seniority or anything like that. We have to work in different hospitals at different positions. So we will become a senior house officer, registrar, senior registrar, and then become a specialist. So my next job was in Royal Sussex County Hospital. And I worked with one of the greatest cardiology fellows, known as Dr. Chamberlain. He was the person who introduced, we should be very thankful to him, he's dead now. He died 2 years ago. He is the person who introduced defibrillation and resuscitation in the ambulance, what we see now. Ambulance is called, and we get all the resuscitation and defibrillation. He is the pioneer in that. So I had a very nice, comfortable stay there, and then I went back to Barrow in Furness again for 1 year, and then my next job was in Romford. I came to Old Church Hospital, Romford, and I did first a registrar job in general medicine, and then I was, normally they don't give this sort of things, they will only extend for 2 years and then you have to leave. But my consultant went on extending my stay, and I worked another registrar post in cardiology. So 2 registrar posts I have done, and I was in Rush Green Hospital and Romford, which was unfortunately, it was demolished and you can see all the floods. But it was a lovely hospital. We were so close, and the staff and everything was very nice. The attitude of the people have changed at that time. Previously, doctors were given simple things like tea, coffee, biscuits, or something like that. When I came to Romford, you had to pay for it. Everything was he wanted tea. I only realized when I was doing an outpatient clinic and I asked the nurse, "Can you make me a cup of tea?" She told straight on my face, "No, doctor, we don't have any tea leaves left." I said, "What's going on here?" You have to give me some money for. So I had to pay £3. It was hard cash. £3 to get some tea leaves. So that's the time I knew the doctors are no more, in their esteems. They are something, different creatures. So I had very comfortable. My second son was born while in Rush Green, Jason, and he is also a doctor practicing in. He is trained in gastroenterology, but he left and he joined my practice. So he's also practicing in Baki. So and then I was doing pure cardiology. 2 incidents, and I will stop there. I was very great incident. I had a very famous accountant was admitted. This one, he was doing he's a leading accountant. I forget his name. He had multiple heart attacks, and this time he came unconscious, and so the thing was that we were going to put a pacing wire in his heart. So I took him to the little theatre we have adjacent to the Rush Green Hospital, and I was putting a pacing wire. You had to do it very quickly to get his heart beating going. So while we were doing, I had great difficulty in, I'm not a surgeon, so I was only taught to go through one of the vein here and get it out. The rest of the things, jugular and everything, I didn't know. So I was trying to fiddle with this one. I had to get the tip into the right muscles of the heart before it can start working. So while I was trying to find it and having the difficulty, I told the sister, "Look, I think we'll call it a day," and we'll say, and that's it. I don't, even if he's alive, he won't be normal. His parts will be, he will be dead like a stroke or something like that. Finally, I managed to put it in, and the heart starts beating. we wheeled him around and slowly he regained consciousness. And then when I went for the water, and then he told the doctor, I heard everything what you were saying there. I mean, I must have told so many other things, the beggar should, because we tried so much. I told, I didn't know doctors talk like that. I told her, I'm very sorry. I thought he was going to complain to the General Medical Council. If that is the case, my registration is finished. So that sort of thing. Very interesting. And he took it in a very light sense. I saw him for the next 10 years. He was alive and kicking, and he's one of this. So that's one. The second person was a 83-year-old man. Came unconscious to the hospital, and then again his heart was completely stopped, and it was showing straight lines. So we gave him a little bit of electric shock to get his, and he got little spikes of heartbeats, and then we took him to the theatre again. We were all saying, there are 4 doctors with me there, we were saying, why do you want to resuscitate an 82-year-old man? I mean, he's gone, he had his share of life and everything. We went on chatting while I was manipulating the wire and everything, and then everything went, and he started beating again, and he is alive and kicking. The first thing he wants is a cigarette, and I told you don't smoke in the intensive care unit. Anyway, he also told the same thing. You were talking about me. What do you think 82-year-old? What is wrong with 82-year-old? Oh my God! And I thought, that time I thought, I will not say anything in front of the patient, anything to do, whether they are dead or alive. Just stop talking. So that was very interesting, and I usually tell this. I told my consultant as well, this has happened, because if he complains, he should be knowing. Because I was only saying for the sake of saying, and it didn't mean anything. That's what I wanted to impress you. Anyway, so from Rashgreen I became a GP. Because my children were getting older and they had to go to one school, we couldn't move around like this. So I became a GP. I trained in our Horn Church practice, because all the doctors who are in the hospital practice had to have a general practice training, because what you see in the hospital is entirely different from what you see in the community. So we had to have trained and get to the level of the patients, because in the hospital we think we are superior and nobody can touch us and everything. And when a GP calls you and says, no, we are not admitting, or something you can say. But general practice, things are different. You are not only a doctor, you are a priest, you are a social worker, you are everything. I've seen elderly people coming and bringing photographs to show me, saying that we've been to Australia and these are all my grandson's photos and everything. And I'm wondering, when am I going to finish this consultation? Anyway, Barking was a very run-down, dilapidated area. Some of you will be knowing the Gascoigne estate, and I got to practice in Gascoigne estate. The maximum number of unemployment, prostitution, drug taking, thefts, teenage pregnancies, you name it, it is in that Gascoigne estate. Everything is there. And I was pushed into that, I didn't get any other job, I only got that job. And I had a job to stay there. I mean, people were initially very rude to me. Every day I used to get 20 parky calls every day. And later on, they were very nice people. One thing I have learned is they are very nice people. They are so poor. They couldn't manage the children's uniforms. They didn't have money to have breakfast for the children and everything. It was a very dilapidated area, but people were loving. So much so, when I parked my car, the kids used to say, "It's Dr. John's car, you effing don't touch that car." Things have changed everything. Anyway, I worked very hard there. As Dr. Rahman knows, I rallied all the doctors down with some of my colleagues. We formed a multi-fund in those days, and we managed our patients' care better. Then we went into primary care trust, and I was the chairman of this one. And we have rallied, and we have got so many services in King George's. The cardiac catheter service, that they put a wire and find out whether there is any blockage in the heart or anything. That is the work of our our people. We also done a great thing known as a chest pain clinic. This I solely worked with some other doctors, and that is, if somebody has got chest pain, you don't have to go to his GP, because it will be too late. If it's going to be a heart pain, you have to be in the hospital quickly. So we introduced a chest pain. It's one of the first in the country. We introduced a chest pain clinic so that people can ring the hospital and they will say, come straight to the chest pain clinic. And we also appointed a consultant with great difficulty, Dr. Warner Kader, a consultant totally in charge of this service, and we are very grateful for his services there. So that's what you have done. And when you work very hard and when you are a chairman and everything, you upset people. So I also had the ill effects of being in the position, and so I upset somebody, I suppose, and I had a very bad time. For 5 years I had to leave the practice because somebody wanted to destroy me, and that is also that is the part of the success. This one. Anyway, now I'm working in Queen's Hospital in the cardiology department. I worked 2 sessions there. They wanted me to do more sessions, but I told I can't. And unfortunately, it turned out to be one of the sessions is on Thursday. So I'm trying to negotiate with them when I get done. So that is in short my lifestyle, life story in this country. I had a thorough, enjoyable life. I brought up my children in this country. Edison came and joined, did some accountancy business, and he also settled down here. And we had a very comfortable life. I have no complaints other than gratefulness. And one of the big things which has happened is this. When I was the president of the Barking Club, I was selected to have an audience with the Queen when she visited Barking in 2003. And Her Majesty has, yesterday I had tears in my eyes, because it's one of those privileges you get. I wouldn't have selected in Barking had I not been the president of Rotary Club of Barking. So in 2002, I was invited guest sort of thing to have an audience with her, and Her Majesty came to me. I don't know whether she got interested with Elsie Sari or something. She just avoided few people and walked right in front of me. What is this on your neck? And I told Mom, this is the Rotary President's badge and everything. And she just touched one of these little things and everything. And then she asked, where am I coming from, how many years you stayed there, and what is your job and everything. Almost 5 minutes she spent, Her Majesty has done. And in these days when we are remembering her vein and everything, this was a very, very important thing that happened in my life. So, I'm very grateful to you all, to the locals, to the doctors, to the people here for having me in this country and having a family and everything. I'm very grateful.
Kochummen, what a fascinating description of Kerala. Did Thomas Cook go there? Fellows, we have some hidden gems in the Rotary Club, and we don't know they're there until they come along and stand up and talk like Kochummen John has today. It's absolutely unbelievable. And the story of Ulverston would make a sitcom. I'm quite sure. But wasn't there about that? But you certainly left your mark on all the hospitals in the United Kingdom. I don't think your story is unfinished. Maybe we can have part 2 at some time in the future. Anyway, fellows, please, let's thank Kochummen for his talk in the usual way.